This is an Extra 106.3 podcast. To hear more live and local content like this, tune into 106.3 FM or download the Extra 106.3 app. Extra 106.3 and a Second Chance Bail Bonds are here to back your blue. Back Your Blue highlights special initiatives, criminal justice programs, and community events aimed at keeping our communities safer. Join a Second Chance Bail Bond CEO Daniel Matalon and host Tug Coward to learn some good news about and from the law enforcement and justice communities. Now it's time to Back Your Blue on Extra 106.3 FM and the Extra 106.3 app.
Welcome to Back Your Blue with Daniel Matalon of a Second Chance Bail Bonds and a Second Chance Monitoring. My name is Tug Coward here on Extra 106.3, and our guest today, Daniel, is Gotcha Covered Blankets. They were here about this time a year ago.
Literally, yeah.
I mean, we were just reminiscing about the time that y'all were here previously, and it's so good to have you back. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having us.
Absolutely. Talking to Donna Georgiana from who is the founder of Gotcha Covered Blankets, and then Chris Michael, board member of Gotcha Covered Blankets. We'll go back through your bio a little bit. That way everybody knows who you are in case they missed that first episode, but you can go back and listen to it on the Extra 106.3 app, extra1063.com, or any of the podcasting platforms. Easy to get a hold of there. Donna lost her young son, who was a police officer, to suicide, and along with her husband and other family members, they founded Gotcha Covered Blankets to honor her son, Mitchell, and assist officers so they can provide comforts to other traumatic situations as well as the homeless. And then Michael is a 25-year police veteran, retired in December of 2022 as a captain with the Cobb County Police Department. He also was part of the peer support team. He was the commander there. Chris struggled with and overcame his own mental health issues and challenges due to things he saw on the job that I think oftentimes gets looked over and people don't realize, people don't talk about it or even think about it. It's like something that never even hits their radar, that the folks who are serving in our community would see things that most people don't. And that's part of what we hope to help with Gotcha Covered Blankets, and is active in two nonprofits that benefit first responders now. And then Gotcha Covered Blankets. Donna, do you want to go through that just for people who don't know what it is, why you do it?
Sure. As you know, I told you last year, 2 days before my son's sudden passing, he had texted me and wanted to know if I had any old blankets. I had no idea for what reason. And, of course, then he called me. He was like, Mom, it's getting cold out, and I've seen a lot of homeless people. So I am proud to tell you that in this last year we had supplied all of Cobb County vehicles with blankets. We have put blankets in 10 additional counties this past year, including Charleston, South Carolina, Mississippi, through a motorcycle ride fundraiser that we had.
Oh, wow.
And
congratulations. That's awesome.
So we've probably purchased close to 1,000 blankets this year to provide to police cars. So it's amazing. The stories with the first gala last year, which we were here to talk about, I knew they would be heartwarming, but they were just blew us away. I mean, I had civilians come up to me, so to say, in the community that said, you know, I never knew that officers did this, because they're not hearing about the good things they do on the news. And
hopefully that's changing some.
I hope so. I mean, so we are rewarding them at the gala for a Heartfelt Hero Award, Community Devotion, a Blanket of Hope, and the stories are just phenomenal that come in. It's hard to get them because the officers don't want to say, hey, look what I did. So we have to hear from people that know that they've done this act of kindness, and it's pretty amazing.
Do you mind sharing one, just so people have a little bit of a sense of an idea of what you're talking about?
So last year we had a Marietta officer, and it was very heartfelt to me because my son had a similar experience, and he kind of educated me on it. He came home one night, and he was all muddy, and I said, what did you get into last night? He said, oh, we were chasing an autistic child. And, of course, me being a mom, but I didn't know this. I said, why was he out in the middle of the night by himself? He said, Mom, they run, and they run towards water. I never knew that.
I've never heard that.
So
I have two autistic children in my family.
Mm-hmm.
I have an adopted sister and a nephew. I've never heard that.
Yeah,
I'm sure they know it, but
I never
wouldn't.
knew it either. And so I was like, wow. And so one of the stories was this Marietta officer, except it was a toddler. She was just like 3 or 4. And it was one of those nights that it was 9 degrees last December. And he found the child. He had a blanket in the car, one of our blankets, and he was able to wrap her up, put her in the car. The paramedics said 15 more minutes, and she might not have made it.
Oh, my goodness.
And so, of course, he's not bragging on himself about that.
No,
but the other officers knew it. And then just, a woman that was put out on the side of 75. Her husband had put her out.
Oh, my.
No clothing, no food, nothing. And an officer was able to assist her, bought her dinner, got her transportation. She only knew one person in the state and able to provide that transportation. So it's just acts of kindness and generosity that you don't hear about every day.
No, you don't. Daniel, if you've ever watched like a police drama or even a movie.
Too many.
Yeah, right. I'm sure, right? Yeah. In real life, maybe for you then, no, with your background, which you've shared on the show many times. But I always see that. And maybe even, Chris, you can speak to this as well. I always see in these movies and on TV shows that have a police setting of some sort, you always see the victim standing there in a blanket. Always. It's almost like a staple of building the scene for a TV show or a movie, and y'all are providing what you would actually see in real life, but is being dramatized on TV. That's what y'all do.
Right. So think about the Red Cross. They give out blankets to people. It's a comfort. If you're cold, if there's something, it's just something to wrap somebody up in and give them some comfort in a time of crisis.
Yeah, it just makes perfect sense, Daniel. I'm sure you've seen it, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And is that something that that you feel like is, especially with what we're doing, that can help people learning more about this? Because I don't think people realize that Gotcha Covered blankets maybe even exist. A lot of people don't.
Oh yeah, no, I'm sure there probably there is a lot of
so it's good to have y'all again for a second time. There's there's a lot going on right now. We got a big cold front coming through. It's about to be. People talk, man. Everybody's talking about snow. It ain't gonna snow. Y'all back off. It ain't gonna snow. It's just not gonna happen. I mean, they say it all the time. They say it all the time.
They do say it all the time.
It never happens. Am I bringing it upon us? People are mad at me here in the studio because I'm saying it ain't gonna happen. I say it ain't gonna happen every time, and guess what? It never happens. On the rare occasion, we'll get some ice. Now that we might get, and that's when it becomes scary. Like they make Saturday Night Live skits out of the ice storms. If you remember, what was it, Buford Calloway? He was like, I didn't know what to do. It was all the ice, so I got in my white Escalade and I took it to the interstate, just like everybody else did. What a mess that was. But this time of year, especially, and Chris, you hit it. Is this weather, this time of year is so cold, and you have so many people in need, and that's the need that y'all are hoping to meet.
Yes, we meet that need. We provide the blankets to the police departments for free, so it's no cost to the police departments or the taxpayers at all. And then they can then turn around and better serve their community and comfort people when they need it. Yeah.
How did y'all get connected with the folks in Charleston and then down in Mississippi?
So we have a board member who was an officer that worked with my son, and he is now with Douglas County. But 3 years ago, after my son passed, he said, Donna, I'd like to do a motorcycle ride. He's the member of a law enforcement motorcycle club. And I said, okay. He said, for the scholarship, which that is another thing we've done this last year, is have 2 scholarship recipients for Mitchell in the last 2 years. And I said, well, we already have that covered. Could we do it for the foundation? He said, sure. So we've had 3 rides this past year. We went from 50 the first year to 170 bikers last June. It was phenomenal. And through that, it's a national club. We had Mississippi and Charleston say, hey, we want to host a ride. So we said, okay, and we took off to Mississippi in August and Charleston in October.
Do you expect that will expand again?
I hope so. I hope so. It was phenomenal.
Has there been any communication with other police departments, other municipalities?
Yes. Apparently, Iowa wants us to come out in the summer. And we're like, oh, wow, that's a long way.
That seems like a haul.
So, yeah.
But it seems like it'd be worth it.
Yeah. It's Charleston was phenomenal. They were so very grateful. And, like Atlanta, they don't have terribly cold weather. But again.
Sure. But when it shows up.
Well, and if someone is in a wreck or a traumatic situation, you get cold when you're scared.
Yeah.
And you're in trauma. So
yeah, no, that's awesome. It's so good, Daniel. How do you feel like that you want to participate and help there with the second chance bail bonds and the second chance monitoring?
Well, I mean, look, it's this touches mental health and amongst a lot of that stuff, and that's something that we're big supporters of, just because I think so much of it goes untouched or unnoticed or ignored in some cases. So yeah, this is something that falls in line with our core values of who we are.
Yeah, it does. What do you expect that people will learn when they are able to find out about what y'all are doing and who you touch? Because without the knowledge, I mean, that's the beauty of the show. We've been able to have you on twice, but if someone hasn't heard of it, what is it that you want them to know about you?
Well, most importantly, of course, is the mom. I want my son's name to stay alive.
Of course.
And I want to honor his memory and his wish that he had. On this journey, what I have learned about is the mental health of officers. And Chris can expand on this. And I jokingly, but in all seriousness at the same time, call him our educator. Every time we get an opportunity, we go into and talk to the leadership when we take blankets about the importance of the wellness training and the peer support, which is why we're co-hosting this conference next May. We had an opportunity to speak at the University Police Chiefs Conference back in October, and there was an individual that said, after we spoke, I know I need to get some help. I've been struggling for 7 years. And nothing will ever bring my son back, and nothing makes it okay. But to know that because of him, we can save one life, that's huge.
That is unbelievable.
And like I said, Chris can expand on that much more.
Yeah, well, let's do that. We're coming to the end of this segment, but I want to talk about that officer specifically and others that we might touch in that same way just by having the conversation. Chris will talk about the gala. We'll talk about the First Responders Conference, the need for education in mental health and wellness. And then I want to hear about the scholarships, too, because I think those are so encouraging for so many people. We'll talk about that on the other side of the break. Here on Extra 106.3, Back Your Blue with Daniel Madelon of a Second Chance Bail Bonds and a Second Chance Monitoring, and Donna and Chris from Gotcha Covered Blankets.
This is Back Your Blue, presented by a Second Chance Bail Bonds, live on Extra 106.3 FM and streaming for free anytime on the Extra 106.3 app.
Welcome back to Back Your Blue on Extra 106.3. My name is Ted Cowart. Along with Daniel Madelon of a Second Chance Bail Bonds and a Second Chance Monitoring, we've got Donna Georgiana, who is the founder of Gotcha Covered Blankets, as well as Chris Michael, board member of Gotcha Covered Blankets and also a 25-year police veteran. You said when you most recently spoke, you had a young man come up to you who was a police officer and said, I've needed help, and I knew it. I needed help for 7 years.
Right.
And because y'all spoke and the things that you talked about, he was open to that help. Right. Tell us about him and just what happened after that.
Well, it's my understanding. It's happened actually twice.
Okay.
I spoke at another class in Washington County back in the spring, and there was an officer that left and apparently struggling with suicide ideologies. And it came back to me that, I felt horrible. I was like, oh no, I made him leave. And they said, no, you could have saved his life, because he said, seeing how a family is affected and me telling them that piece of our puzzle will never be put back together. Time moves on, but it doesn't heal. And so again, it was, he reached out and went to his superiors and said, I need help. Same thing at the conference that Chris and I spoke at.
Yeah.
If we can save one life, then we've not lost Mitchell for nothing.
Goodness gracious. Chris, talk about that, the importance of this health education or the mental health education and why it means so much to officers like you when you were serving and the ones that are still serving.
Well, I think like when she talks about the people that we've touched, it's good to get somebody to get up there and talk about it, open up about it, try to kill that stigma that if you talk about you're weak or you're going to lose your job or whatever the case may be. We've spoken at a number of events. And we had 3 at one event that actually came forward and said, it's like you were telling my story.
Oh my
I
goodness.
thought I was alone, because people hold it up, they bottle it up, they don't understand that other people are struggling with it as well. And so when somebody gets up and talks about it openly and talks about their own struggles, they connect with that, and they're willing to say, okay, I need to get this help too. I'm not alone. And they get that.
Man, I'm telling you, that blows me away to think that there's someone in that position who are just feeling like they're out on an island, feeling like and you talk about the stigma, Chris, and I think it's important to bring that up because it's always officers who you call when you need help. So who does an officer call when they need help? I mean, you know what I mean? I could see that dilemma that they would run into because they're supposed to be strong. I could see it in the form of a military veteran too. Someone's in the service, which is another place that they're having serious complications with mental health issues. So this education is so valuable.
It is, and it's getting more and more open. Because if you go to YouTube, you can find all kinds of podcasts. Sean Ryan is a great example. I don't know if you've ever seen a Sean Ryan podcast.
He's Navy SEAL, right?
But he brings in the elite, the Delta Force, the SEALs, the Special Forces, the special operators in the police world. All of these top tier, tough guys, and they will tell you their story of when they had a gun to their head, or when they were ready to give it up, or whatever the case may be. And those are not weak men.
No.
Those are not weak people. So if it's affecting them, it can affect anybody. And the more we open up about it, the more we get the leadership to recognize it and acknowledge it and give them the opportunity to get fixed instead of just firing them, then we're going to be much better off.
Do you feel like Cobb County is on the cutting edge of this, or is there other places that you think are doing really, really well? Because I feel like Cobb County has like what do they call it, Daniel? The vibe room or something, when you just need to go and chill and relax.
Wellness room.
Yeah.
The what is it?
Wellness room.
The wellness room. Okay. Yeah. And there's it's just a super chill. Like if you've had a tough day, are more, I guess, municipalities, more police agencies doing things like that? Do you feel like?
I know the city of Marietta has their, and we are proud to have her advise us on our board. Johnny Moeller-Reed is a wellness officer.
Which was a guest here. Yeah.
Yep.
And it's amazing. And Chris and I both know her heart and her passion.
So I may have said Cobb County meaning Marietta.
Yeah.
I didn't need to correct that.
And so I think she's the first officer in the state. Am I right, Chris?
First wellness officer, I believe.
Yeah,
So it's
unbelievable.
amazing.
So
Amazing.
that's the first, that's the first step.
Mm-hmm.
What's next? How do we get more of these agencies to follow that lead? Do you have a suggestion, you think?
My suggestion is, in any time, like she said, when we drop off blankets, we take that opportunity to talk to that chief or that sheriff about the peer support, about the wellness, training and this, that, and the other. And we have run across a number of sheriffs and chiefs that are very on board with this. They're very in tune with taking care of their people. And the more those leaders step up and talk to the other leaders and go, I'm taking care of my people, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I think it's going to become a hiring point at some point, because this new generation is going to say, what are you going to do for me? Mm-hmm. And what we're going to do for you is we're going to recognize that you see these traumas, and we're going to recognize that they can affect you, and we're going to provide the care and support for you instead of making you worry about losing your job.
Yeah, we have to recognize it, because officers coming in probably don't realize it, right? They have to recognize it for their officers before they even get in there.
Exactly.
Especially the younger folks.
They do.
Exactly.
And I went through that. We all went there. We're young, we're gung-ho, we want to go out, we want to see it all. This is not going to affect me. I'm tough. I got this. And it starts wearing down on you over the years, and finally it gets to the point where you're like, I can't take this anymore.
What about the scholarship? Because you brought up a couple scholarships that were given. Who qualifies for the scholarship? How are they selected? And who can be recommended next time?
Okay, so my son started out at Chattahoochee Tech right out of high school because he had been in a small private school. We said start out small, and then he transferred to Reinhardt. Well, he became very close to all of his professors at Chattahoochee. In fact, the day before he passed, and we didn't know this until the day he passed, he had been nominated for Alumni of the Year through one of his professors. And so we had to go get his award the week after he passed because he was first runner-up. And So when we started the scholarship, it has to be a criminal justice major, and they have to keep their grade point average up. So we've had 2 recipients. The first one so far, which was awarded in 23, I am so proud of this young lady. I mean, so proud of her. She comes to every event we have.
You're glowing. I can see it.
I am so proud of her. And she just took an internship with the city of Ackworth.
Oh, that's
for
awesome.
this next year. So she really is. And it's just, and things she doesn't have to do. I mean, she's not the scholarship recipient anymore. It went to someone else this last year. She went on to Kennesaw. But it'll just be like last week, hey, Donna, just checking on you. You know, she doesn't have to check on me monthly.
What a heart.
But she does.
The heart of a servant.
Yeah, a heart like my son.
Yeah.
And I will say this, going back to the mental health, in this last year since that we've been with you guys, and I meant to look up the bill number, I forgot it, but there is a bill that was passed nationally. Some officers are awarded line of duty death. Mitchell's has been awarded line of duty.
Oh, wow.
The sad thing of that we found out through the journey of applying is that my son went on 369 serious traumatic calls.
Wow.
30 of those were homicide or suicide.
Oh, my gosh.
And that doesn't make it okay. It doesn't change the way he died. But we know that they know out here that we have a problem on our hands. We are losing, as Captain Michael always says, we are losing our officers at a higher rate of suicide than we are to the bad guys.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to wrap my head around that, Daniel. I can only imagine, you know, in your line of work, you see folks who've gotten themselves in a bad way, you know, and sometimes they've done something, sometimes they haven't. But to lose the good guys, knowing that they're the good guys, I mean, that stat just hits me in the face like a punch from Rocky or something.
Yeah, it's heavy stuff. And I think I mean, you know, most people in life and anything in life, unless you can relate or identify with someone, that's what kind of brings the conversation out of you, or to seek help or whatnot. But yeah, it's deep stuff.
You said 369 calls? Is that the number?
Reports that he had written.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they were considered traumatic by the Department of Justice.
Yeah, and then 30 were homicide or suicide.
Yeah.
I mean,
and he was
just
23 years old.
Let that sink in for a minute. I mean, it's not something that we deal with every day.
No, and that's 18-month span.
Yeah.
I used to think it as a kid when I would see these people overseas in war and stuff, and I'm like, how do you even come back and like be a normal, just or whatever normal is?
Yeah, whatever.
But
fit back into normal society.
Right.
That's not.
Right, you're not like
chaos like that.
Right.
Where it's just, you
like
know.
I used to literally think that. I'm like, this must be difficult. I mean, not knowing, clearly not knowing, young child, not knowing what.
And understandably so. But when you do it day after day after day. And
where you live and play.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go to church, yeah.
That's exactly right. Because in the military, you leave it back there. Not that it's any easier, and I'm not trying to diminish what was being done. But there's a difference, Chris, when that's over there versus on the street you live on.
It is, and I've had this conversation with some veterans, combat veterans, and we come to the understanding, and we agree on this, is that they're in a much more intense situation, firefights, because the military can come up with all kinds of ways to do death and destruction, and you see the violence of that in incredible amounts, but for a short amount of time, and then you come home, you leave it. For a police officer, it's not as violent or as intense constantly as combat, but it's spread out over a 25 or a 30-year career, and the people that you're dealing with are the people you're going to run into at the grocery store, you know, in your community, and you can't leave it, which was, you know, one of my struggles when I retired was I will walk out to take the dog out, and I'm watching cars to see if somebody just got out of prison that's found where I live. You know, that's the kind of thing that's always on my mind.
Always in the back of your head. I mean, it really is unbelievable that it's taken this long to realize.
Right.
Like Daniel said, he thought of it as a child or coming up.
And in some cases, you don't know where these people are. You know, I mean, you know, you have victim services and stuff, people that are supposed to notify, people that were involved in the case or whatnot. Sometimes that falls through the cracks. So I understand what he's saying in the sense of you go 25 years of arresting people and different things.
Looking over your shoulder.
And listen, all it takes is one person to just feel some type of way. It's not like, we're just talking about just one.
Yeah, it's a real uncomfortable feeling when you're out at Walmart or the grocery store and somebody walks up to you with this look on their face and go, "Do you remember me?" No. So it happens. Yeah, it happens.
You had that happen.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they'll come up. You arrested me back in.
But nothing transpired because of it.
Nothing for me. It has for other people. But in my case, actually, it was a thank you. You changed my life.
Okay.
But it's still, but it's still that very uncomfortable feeling when they walk up to you and go, "Do you know who I am?"
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, kind of thing. So because it is right there in your neighborhood.
Do you mind sharing a little more of that story? And like the person you said, that person told you that you changed their life. What happened? What changed?
Well,
do you recall?
I don't really, because over a span of a career, you arrest so many people. Sure. You're like, it wasn't personal for me.
Yeah.
So no, I don't remember you in particular. There's a few arrests that I would remember, but this particular one, I'm like, I don't remember. It was a young lady, and she was on a path of self-destruction. The crime and being with the wrong people, and that arrest set her straight, and she went to college. I still got a letter. I got a letter from her later, that I still have. I think I got that 20 years ago.
Goodness.
And I've held on to it. It says, "Thank you. I'm in college. I'm getting my life together." And I haven't heard from her since, but she at least took that time to say, what you did helped me. It seemed bad in the moment because I was being arrested and going to jail, but it turned my life around.
Sometimes hitting rock bottom is
you only got one way to go.
You only got one way to go.
Yep.
It was up. And so that's about. Have you ever thought about reaching out to her, like just to follow up? Now that you have the letter and all that, so has there been any thought of following that?
No, not really, because you just never know.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I just kind of leave things alone.
Was it's an ignorant question for me, but a fascinating one nonetheless. Yeah. Let's talk about the first responder conference, because you told me, Donna, that they don't typically have in the Southeast.
Yeah, I think she's been to Atlanta just the one time. Chris is much more knowledgeable on all of this, and I had the opportunity to attend 2 years ago, and it's a phenomenal. Even though I'm not law enforcement, I'm just a mom wanting to make a difference.
But cares about law enforcement greatly.
Absolutely, and so it was just a phenomenal 2-day conference. It will be at the Marietta Conference Center, May 8th and 9th. And so we were thrilled to be able to have the opportunity to co-host it and bring it here. And, of course, Chris has been a major player, so I will let him inform you more of that.
How did you help it come to Marietta?
So I learned about her through just
and what is her name, by the way?
Sean Thomas.
Sean Thomas.
You learned about Sean?
Yeah, so she has an organization called First Responder Conferences, which makes it a little weird when you say a first responders conference. But I learned of her through my contacts, through peer support, and I'm not one to recommend anything until I attend it. So I drove down to Jacksonville, Florida to attend one of her conferences. And it is 2 days. All the speakers have something to do with first responder mental health, and it's all first responders, police, fire, 911, corrections, ER staff, whoever may be first responder. They're all welcome. And you never know what you're going to get because you got different speakers at different ones. So it may be financial wellness. And I've been told that finances don't have anything to do with mental health. Well,
I disagree with that.
Well, the people that said that obviously weren't ever behind on a bill.
Yeah, amen to that.
They can always afford their groceries.
Facts.
So it could be finances, it could be clinician stuff, it could be alcohol related stuff, whatever the case. Nutrition
runs the gambit.
It runs the gambit of anything that could be mental health, and it's just a good 2 days of conference, good 2 days of speaking. You're not listening to one lecturer for 4 to 6 to 8 hours. Each one is an hour to 90 minutes. So you get a variety and you get a lot of different people. So it keeps the things moving. So if you're not interested in this because they're primarily kind of a fire-related kind of thing, well, wait 90 minutes and you'll have something that's 911 related or police related or corrections related or whatever the case may be. Or it's something that relates to everybody in general because trauma relates to everybody.
Yes, it does.
So,
do you know who the speakers will be for May? Have they figured that out quite yet?
She's got the list. So if anybody wants to go to the website, it's 1strc.org.
1strc.org.
Mm-hmm.
1st.
Yes, the number 1.
RC.
Yeah, for first, and then RC for Responders Conferences, and then .org.
Okay.
So they can go to the website. They can see all of the other conference locations, because she does them all over the country. And you can see the dozens and dozens of large organizations that become endorsing agencies and endorse the conference. And they can get some of the feelings. She has a newsletter that comes out every week that provides, mental health tips or recommended reading or anything like that. So, anybody can sign up for the newsletter, because it could help you.
Yeah, sure.
In any way.
You never know when something's going to strike a chord.
Exactly.
As y'all were talking about earlier.
Yeah. So. That's where it is, and May 8th and 9th. And if an endorsing agency would get a buy one get one free for registration, that kind of thing. So go to the website and get more information. And if somebody happens to be listening that's not in Georgia, that's not close, if you're in the Southeast, this is going to be your closest one. But they're also in Maryland and California and Idaho. So.
Yeah, 1ST as in first, 1strc.org.
Mm-hmm.
Is easy to get to, just like Michael was saying. Like Chris was saying. If you're outside of Georgia, a lot of probably most of our listeners here are in Georgia, but I know on the show that we do Monday through Friday, we have callers from all over. We had a caller from Canada. Yeah. On our morning show.
And somebody that's here may have a family member in another state that could sign up and go to this.
No, it makes perfect sense, and I love the fact that. But can you tell people why you think this is important? Why it would be valuable for a police department to be a part, or someone individually
for this conference? Mm-hmm. Anything that we can do to educate on mental health, to again get rid of that stigma, to show that it is a common, widespread thing. Another thing that people can do to go to is look at First Help. First Help is the organization that keeps up with first responder suicides, and they can actually see it in a chart. They can see male to female. They can see the different, police, fire, 911, corrections, EMS. They can see it broken down into the different categories, how long they've been with the department, the average tenure. They can see all of this data as to who are the ones committing suicide. And when you see it in graphs and charts and stuff, it makes it real. It makes it real, and you actually see the numbers. That's how you know, because if you go to the Officer Down Memorial page that keeps up with line of duty deaths, they break each death down into categories. So individual causes of death, whether it's gunfire, car wreck, aircraft crash, drowning, stabbing, whatever the case may be, with the exception of COVID, that was an anomaly. If you take COVID out, but if you look at all of the other individual categories, none of them are as high as suicide.
Goodness. Local municipalities, are there already folks that are signing up for it, or is that what we're pitching? Is that what we're asking some municipalities and some police agencies to do?
We already do have some agencies that are endorsing the conference. I don't have a list of people who have registered individually, but I do know that way. If you go to the website and you look at each of the conferences, she will have a list of the agencies that are openly endorsing or co-hosting.
Okay. Yeah. Donna, are there any folks that you would like to just reach out to now and just say, hey, if you're here, this is the conference for you?
Oh, we would love for all of our local departments to come in. Absolutely love it. We have reached out, even like you said, to an ambulance service, and it's every first responder, not just officers.
Yeah.
And but like I said, it's a phenomenal 2-day course, and if they're coming from out of town, there's lodging right there because it's at the Marietta Conference Center. And so I hope we have a really good turnout.
How do you advise families that maybe it's a mom like yourself that has an officer that is working hard every day and everything seems normal? How would you tell them to pay attention, what to look for, or to go to a conference like this?
That's a hard one because I have unfortunately, two mom friends that were in this club together, and the three of us together.
Totally different.
The normality of all three of our sons is we didn't see any signs. They weren't showing any depression. They weren't showing struggling with alcohol. And so we just, it's hard to know, but the only clue that we ever had that we can look back on is my son telling, his dad and I at different times that he had had some nightmares. Mm-hmm. And, of course, my daughter, and with her whole heart, she believes that something happened to my son in his sleep. Mm-hmm. And, yes, it does look like that from the way I found him. Our friends in Boston that we've met, their son, no signs. Hey, Mom, I'm going out to the gym. He was 24 years old. Mm. So it's hard to know without being, like with Mitchell, we know he was struggling with some nightmares. Mm-hmm. Was that because of everything he had seen? My husband heard him scream out one time when he was in bed, and he was walking through the kitchen. His room is on a different level than ours, and my husband runs, and he opens the door. He's sound asleep. So clearly he was having some sleep problems. Yeah. And I think he was just filing it away because I never knew until I saw that report that my son had seen that type of crime. I never knew he had been on 30 suicide or homicide. He didn't tell us that.
Sure.
We didn't know it.
Not
so
something you want to talk about after you've seen it, I'm sure.
And that's where, especially when Chris gets in talking to people, he tells them it's okay to let somebody know you're struggling with what you've seen or what you're going through.
That might be the reason right there, is that you've seen nothing. And it would be a good reason to go to this conference.
Right.
Because you've seen nothing at all. Right. It is firstrc.org. STRC, firstrc.org. When we come back, I want to talk about the gala. Yes. I think it's going to be a great event, and we look forward to sharing that with you. Next on Back Your Blue.
Extra 106.3 and a second chance bail bonds are here to back your blue. Now back to the show on Atlanta's only conservative news and talk station, Extra 106.3.
Welcome back to Back Your Blue with Daniel Madelon of a Second Chance Bail Bonds and a Second Chance Monitoring, and our guests from Gotcha Covered Blankets, Donna and Chris, both board members and founders of this fine organization. Let's talk about your gala that's coming up and what it is, what you want folks to know about, and how they might be able to help you.
Okay. Well, it's our second gala. This year it actually falls on my son's, what would have been his 27th birthday. And when we saw that the 24th was on a Friday, I said, well, we can sit at home and cry, or we can get out there and celebrate his memory.
A wonderful life.
He was amazing. He was an amazing young man. And the wish that he had, and honor these officers that show acts of kindness, like I said, that you don't typically ever hear about on the day-to-day basis. Yeah. Last year, we were blown away. We had people come up to us say, hey, I never knew officers did that. I never used, and we all know they're not making the biggest incomes, but they're using money that they have to help others. And so we want to honor them for that. And so at this point, we still have tickets available. We have tables available for sale. We don't charge the officers or their spouses to come. And so we would love for people to sponsor some tables for them, even. And do you have anything to add?
Where's the information on that?
Yeah, how do we find out?
It's at Adventure Outdoors,
okay,
which a lot of people don't know, but they have a great ballroom upstairs. And the Wallace family has been so very kind to us for 2 years, letting us use this space. It's Western attire. My son loved his cowboy boots.
Attaboy.
And so it's kind of a rustic room, and it works well.
What's the website that, because Adventure Outdoor, Cobb Parkway, Smyrna.
South Cobb Drive.
South Cobb Drive. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, South Cobb Drive. Looked at it wrong. What website so people can get involved? If they want to
GotchaCoveredBlankets.com.
GotchaCoveredBlankets.com. And there it can be individuals buying tables or I would imagine
individual tickets, yes.
Yeah, or what about company sponsorships? Any of that?
We would love some more sponsorships.
Yeah. Who do we have so far? Who can we
we have Be Green Junk Removal. We have Monster Customs, which is a company that outfits police cars. I had the opportunity the other day to go into their warehouse and watch them take these new vehicles and equip them to be police cars on the inside.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
And State Farm Agency here in Smyrna,
Sure.
Tanner Goldsmith.
Tanner, nice
So,
work, man.
Yeah, he's a great young man. So, so we are still looking for some more sponsors.
Okay, what goes on, Chris, at the gala? Tell me about it. Walk me through it.
So basically what we do is we introduce everybody, and we have a speaker that will get up and talk about some aspect of mental health, and try to, because we have most all of the police chiefs, if their department is getting a award, the chiefs are there. So we have that opportunity to have leadership in front of us, and the speaker talks to them about the mental health, the importance of taking care of their troops, and the things that they can do to help.
There you go. And folks listening right now, how would you encourage like the officers to join in and come to the gala?
That's a tough one, because officers tend to not want to acknowledge it.
Sure.
And I hate to say it that way, but if you don't talk about it, then it's not real, kind of thing. And so I know a lot of officers that just avoid these things because it's almost like if you close your eyes, it's not there.
Right. La, 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 la.
Yeah.
I put my fingers in my ears.
And but we would encourage them to at least come listen. Even if you're a new officer, come listen. And I created a class for that. This is what to expect. I don't expect you to pay attention now because you're new and you love this, but eventually you're going to look back and go, okay, he said this. This is the way to deal with it.
Sure.
And so I would love to see younger officers come and see this and hear the speaker and see the officers getting the awards for being kind to the public.
Yeah. And Donna, I think Chris really hit it there with the younger officers, right?
Right.
Being able to discuss what you will face.
Absolutely. I mean,
and hearing it from a perspective
Right.
of someone who's dealt with it.
Right. Because I say this all the time. My son was 23 years old, and he had only been in law enforcement for 18 months with this department. All he had done in his life was go to college and chop wood.
Yeah.
That was his first real job. And if he was struggling and he knew he was struggling, he didn't have it in him yet to talk to someone.
Mm-hmm.
And we have I think I shared this last year when Chris and he was at my house the day that Mitchell passed. I didn't know that until sometime later, and he came to our events, but he invited us to go to one of his graduate at the training facility at Cobb, one of his graduate classes that he did that they asked the families to come for peer support. And I looked at my husband and I said, oh my gosh, had we known this before, just not that it would have changed anything, but maybe we would have known more what to look for. And to me, I just think if every academy would at least provide this class, it's no guarantee, but maybe it might help one person.
If you just can help one.
Yeah.
And Daniel, I mean, that's what your business is, trying to give people an opportunity for a better start or even a restart.
Yeah. Oh, no, and it's a case-by-case basis. I mean, you try to the process should be individualized in the first place. So, but we try to follow suit on that. Because people ask us crazy, I mean, just all types of questions when they're going through this process, right? So it's a moment of crisis, and then there's all these other underlying issues that probably led to the incident in the first place.
Sure.
So you try to be mindful of all that stuff when you're,
you have
going
to be.
through the process.
GotchaCoveredBlankets.com is the website, GotchaCoveredBlankets.com. And if you look there, right on the front page, if you come across any old blankets you don't want anymore, can you keep them for me? What a sweet message. It looks like it's in text form. Is that a text that you've sent, I assume?
That was the text that he sent me.
Oh, that was the one that your son sent you?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And, of course, you can see my response was for what?
Yeah.
And then he called me and literally, Mom, it's getting cold out, and I've seen a lot of homeless people. Oh.
Yeah.
I look at my husband, I said, wow, I don't know what I was thinking he wanted blankets for. For what?
Yeah, right. Just a normal and obvious question. Like, what? What are you talking about?
But that was his heart.
No, I know. I love that.
It was his heart.
Absolutely love that. I want you to go to the website, GotchaCoveredBlankets.com, and I want you to learn about the gala that's coming up. I want you to learn about the First Responder Conference in May. There's so many ways that you can participate, you can help, whether you just support our law enforcement or you are law enforcement. And by me saying you are means that you have somebody in your family, because if they are, you are too.
And I think for our holiday party, which is on the 25th, I believe that, right, we're doing the blankets.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
So,
absolutely right. So,
which I think we have over 200. I think there's over 200 people coming to that. So we should get
a lot
of blankets,
and all to help Got You Covered Blankets.
That's the day after your gala.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Thank you so much for
Thank
being
you.
here. I want to thank you, Donna, and Chris. Thank you so much for your service and for coming here and sharing your heart and experience. We can't thank you enough for that.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
GotchaCoveredBlankets.com. For the whole team and Daniel, my name is Tug. Appreciate you being here on Back Your Blue.
This is an Extra 106.3 podcast. To hear more live and local content like this, tune into 106.3 FM or download the Extra 106.3 app.